Patriots take their second loss of the season. Gronk gets hurt, and Tom Brady has a new commercial. All that and more on this week's edition of Patriots Wrap 360.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
You know, that's an unfortunate mindset you got there.
Tom Brady.
Just because something's great year after year doesn't mean anything's going on. Why can't some things just be great?
Just a question.
It starts with questions, and then questions turn into assumptions, and then assumptions turn into vacations. So why would you punish the week of greatness for something that never even happened? I lost my appetite.
Oh, what's up, Patriot Nation? You gotta love that Tom Brady ad, thinly veiling his disdain for the Deflategate shenanigans. What's happening? Unfortunately, we're joining you here after a loss. The Pats dropping a tough one on the Seattle Seahawks, 31-24 on Sunday night. But cheer up, the Pats are still 7-2 and in control of their destiny in the AFC. As you can see, I'm here all alone. These guys don't like to come out when the Pats lose, you know? So definitely keep me company. Join our weekly relative discussion on all things Patriots by jumping onto the YouTube live chat room and just shoot me some questions out there. I'd love to hear what everybody wants to, how everybody feels about the last drive. And was Gronk interfered with? Why is Belichick running a sneak with Brady from the 2-yard line on 1st and goal? You know, you can help me answer all these questions. If you feel like you want to give a call in, you can give a call in here to the studio, 424-253-0504. And, yeah, that'll be great. But, you know, it was a tough loss for the Pats, but as you know, I think, like, intermittent losses are kind of good to rewrite the ship. You know, and Pete Carroll got one, you know. Pete Carroll got one from him on this, so it's a little bit of a makeup for, you know, that Super Bowl 49 loss. So, you know, don't be sad, Pete. I think Meatloaf, you know, said it best when he said, now.
Don't be sad, 'cause 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Oh, yeah. All right, Meatloaf, go back waiting for that call for the cabinet position. But, yeah, Pete, it's too bad. You took 2 out of the last 3 from the Pats. Just that one you didn't was the big one, Super Bowl 49. Oh, no, as Pete liked to say at the end of that one. But it was eerily familiar where you had one team that was down on the doorstep of, you know, with the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, they could have actually taken the lead. But with the Pats, they could have tied it up. Also wanted to hear what people are thinking about Pete Carroll going for a 2-point conversion on their final touchdown. Because, you know, that would have gave him a 9-point lead. Kind of an aggressive play on Pete's part, you know. If you just kicked the extra one, you know, no big deal. Then the Pats would, in order to tie it, would have to get a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. So whereas he missed it, they only had to get the touchdowns and kick an extra point for 7 to tie it up. But it's kind of interesting, you know, very interesting on the play calls down there. But we'll shelve that for just a minute. I did want to thank VChat for listening and giving us all the love out there in the comment section of the YouTube page. Appreciate you listening to VChat or tuning in, however you want to do it. Latest news on the Pats. Rob Gronkowski not at practice today. You know, he took that big hit from Earl Thomas in the game, and he just said in the post-game press conference that he got his wind knocked out of him a little bit. And then he was back in 5 plays later and played the rest of the game. So you think it wasn't too bad, but a little bit of alarming what came out after the game on Monday by the NFL insider Ian Rappaport, who said that Gronk had a punctured lung. And then you kind of got alarmed and you heard that, and you thought there might be some credibility to that when on Tuesday, Gronk had to go to New York for a EA Sports promo thing, the video game company, and he couldn't make the flight. He was not suitable to fly, so that makes you panic a little bit. But reports have come out since then, one by ESPN's Adam Schefter, that says the injury is not overly serious, quote unquote, there. So you certainly hope that's the case. So the Pats have the best tight end in the league at their disposal come Sunday. But it's looking like with a cross-country flight and the Pats leaving early on Friday because it's so far away, it's on the other side of the country, they're going to be leaving on Friday rather than the usual Saturday, excuse me. So he'll have to be ready to fly by Friday, so we'll have to see. It could be a situation where, just rest easy, take your time. It's an NFC foe, not an AFC foe. So, just take it slow with number 87. All right? We're going to need that guy for the rest of the year. But, like I say, we'll know more come Friday. But, and we have a stud in Martellus Bennett anyways that can definitely pick up the slack like he did on Sunday for old Gronky boy. But it's a tough one. Tough loss. The second loss of the season for the Pats. Both of them, ironically, coming at home. So maybe getting out on the road is just what the doctor ordered for these New England Patriots. Yep. Also, a guy there, you want him to take it on slow on Gronk, just like I said. Another guy the Pats are kind of bringing along slowly, which is good because we thought maybe we'd see him in this past weekend's game. But Dion Lewis, who on Saturday was put on the 53-man roster for the Pats. Unfortunately, he wasn't on the 46 game day roster. So they're taking it slow with him, but he is somebody we might see in San Francisco. Hey, maybe you can play a little tight end, can you, Dion? I mean, you are that good. Interesting. You thought it was going to be a good day for the Pats when they got the Seattle won the toss and deferred. Such a Belichick move. They're just totally copying them. And then the Pats got a touchback, and the Pats marched right down the field, and you thought this was going to be their day. Got 7. On a LeGarrette Blount dive, I believe, on that one. But, oh, yeah. What did I have on that? Yes, the 1-yard TD plunge by LeGarrette Blount. And I hope you guys had LeGarrette Blount in your daily fantasy lineup because I did tell you he was going to have a huge game, and he had 3 TDs. So what can you say? He was unable to punch it in, though, in those last 4 downs, which was unfortunate. But, to me, honestly, I didn't think that was a gross no call on Gronk there at the end of the game. I thought he kind of initiated the contact. Chancellor did kind of grab his arm after that and kind of pull him down. But, I thought there were worse no calls in the game. All in all, I thought the officials did a pretty good job. There was a 3rd and 7, though, in, I believe, the second quarter where Edelman got hauled down on a ball by Earl Thomas that subsequently fell incomplete over his head. I thought that was a little contact on that, and I thought that could have maybe been a whistle. Pat's defense coming on a lot of scrutiny in this game, giving up 31 points and all. And the knock on Seattle, coming in, was this team is hurting on the offensive line. I mean, they can't protect them, and they can't run the football. Well, CJ Prosise had something to say about that as he came out and ran the football pretty effectively versus the Pats. And, I don't know if I can point to it just yet that, it's the Jamie Collins trade, just quite yet, because he wasn't showing, that much grit against the run in the last few games he played with the Pats this season. But, and Landon Roberts, he didn't really jump off the page like I had hoped he would coming in, but, he's still a little bit of a work in progress, but you gotta like where he's going, no question about that. But the Pats, so there was a little bit of that bend don't break that the Pats defenses of the past have been known for, especially the ones in the early odds. And they were able to hold the Seahawks to a couple field goals in their first 2 drives to hold a 7-6 lead. But it was really. The Seattle defense kind of stepped up after that opening drive, and the Pats didn't get a whiff of the end zone there again until the end of the half where they were able to punch one in, but then subsequently let Seattle march down the field and get another touchdown with like in the waning moments, and that was Doug Baldwin's second touchdown. He already had one early in the game where he burnt Malcolm Butler. He took turns burning different people in this game, and later that was definitely a defensive mix-up because it seemed like they have Wilson somewhat contained. They didn't have much of a rush on Wilson. They ended up playing coverage a lot of the game, and having people spy on him, whether that be Trey Flowers or Dante Hightower, different kinds of guys kind of spying on him and not really rushing him and putting him under duress. Maybe they'll change that if they meet again, and that would have to be in Super Bowl 51. But on that one play, they let him get outside the pocket. He did a kind of like a reverse spin and kind of rolled out left. And then Logan Ryan and Patrick Chung got their signals crossed because Ryan let Baldwin just cross his face, and he thought he had help on the other side of the field with Chung, but Chung let him get behind him. Boom. And Wilson just hit him. Dropped it right over. That was definitely the worst play from the defense. I think I saw that there. Also, the Pats shot themselves in the foot by losing the turnover battle, turning it over 2 and not forcing any turnovers. 2-0 loss in the turnover battle. One being Tom Brady's first interception and the Patriots' first interception of the season. They were unable to match the 60 Browns as the only team to go 9 games to open the season without throwing a pick. Who would have thought we were trying to chase the Browns on something? Pretty crazy. But, I don't want to drag down the defense quite yet. I mean, they kind of had a bad game. Seattle seems to be kind of clicking offensively the past couple weeks. Maybe I didn't take them seriously enough. I know I was kind of thinking the Pats were going to win this one by double digits, especially after Seahawks are kind of traveling all across the country on a short week. And, it seems like they had to do everything they could to take care of the Bills, who the Pats have beat twice this year. So it's kind of interesting. But, a good reality check for the Pats, just in case you get too high on your horse at 7-1, guess what? Bill Belichick has a tape now of where you weren't looking so good, so he can motivate you to improve from 7-2 to 8-2, as they'll try and do in San Francisco this weekend, a place that the Patriots have not played in Levi's Stadium. A little bit of a homecoming in that one for 2 of the NorCal boys on our squad. Obviously, Tom Brady hails from San Mateo, and Julian Edelman from Redwood City. So those boys will be going back. Edelman even said in the locker room today, he's like, yeah, it'll be good, but, Levi's Stadium, it ain't no candlestick, where he used to go and see Joe Montana and the like ply his trade when he was a wee lad. But we'll get more into that Niners game in just a second. I don't want to put the Seattle one to bed just quite yet. The Pats did have a little bit of a fumble where they recovered it, but it was called on the field down by contact. And when you looked at the replay, I believe it was in the second quarter, and when you looked at the replay, it was clear that the ball came out before he was down by contact. Alex Collins was the runner for Seattle. Incidentally, somebody I like out of Arkansas, and I think he can be a good running back in the future. One guy who won't be a good running back in the future, at least for the Seattle Seahawks, was Christian Michael, who was released a couple days after the game. So apparently they like what they saw out of CJ Procise too, and they got Thomas Rawls coming back too, so they think they're pretty set at that running back position, enough where they let C. Mike go, a guy who was maybe, starting for a lot of your fantasy teams here in the first quarter of the season and doing all right. But he is no longer a Seahawk, and oddly enough, actually, he's already been claimed by the Green Bay Packers, who have had a rash of injuries to their running backs this year. So be interesting to see how that shakes out. If you're just tuning in, you're tuning into Patriots Wrap 360. I'm Mike Conley. Thanks for joining us, gang. We're here at the AFTERBUZZ Studios in lovely North Hollywood, California. And we're talking Pats Seahawks from this past weekend, 31-24 loss for the Pats, unfortunately. Let me know what you think about that game, how they could have won it. Hit us up in the YouTube chat room or hit us up here in the studio if you want to give us a buzz. Once again, that number is 424-253-0504. Oh, yeah. But I was a little bit nervous when I saw Gronk get hit like that because Earl Thomas is a big hitter, but Gronk is a big boy, and shrugged it off and was able to come back into the game. So, like I say, hopefully all is good with him. But play it safe, Belichick. Play it safe, Pats. But he also was called for a fumble early in the game, but that got overturned as it showed that his elbow was down. Also, good play on special teams when Shea McClellan balked a PAT for against the Seahawks. So that was good to see as well. Interesting on Brady's first interception of the season. Like I say, the Pats' first interception of the season. He was kind of rolling around the pocket, and then he wasn't hit, but he launched it deep, and what he launched deep was like a wounded quail because it just died and went right into the arms of Deshaun Shedd. And, it was like from Malcolm Mitchell in double coverage. It's like Malcolm Mitchell. I mean, is that the guy you should be forcing to it in double coverage? But I don't know. Tom said that he had a play there and he just didn't make the throw. It was a terrible throw. It was a terrible throw. And I have to say, for a fleeting moment, I kind of regretted calling out Father Time last week, and when it pertains to Tom Brady, because it sure looked like it caught up to him on that throw. And I had to dismiss that thought from my mind as quickly as it entered. And I hope you would too. But, it was tough to see old number 12, not continue his perfection as he continues this assault on the league. That he so deserves to just make Roger Goodell taste it. Who doesn't want to see that? Oh. The saga of Glenn Gronkowski, full-pack little brother of Rob, continues as he's resigned today to the practice squad. He has been signed to the practice squad 3 times and released 3 times. Or I guess released twice and signed to it 3 times. So that's pretty interesting. He's back in the fold. And the Pats yesterday released tight end Kennard Beckman from the practice squad. So they must be happy with that. Matt Lengel they signed last week from the Cincinnati practice squad as tight ends go. Oh, and hey, who knows? Maybe they'll have to sign another one if Gronkowski's out for any length of time. Excuse me, I'm going to take a sip of water. Oh, thanks for joining me. I'm here all alone tonight. Please, it's so lonely. Hit me up in the YouTube chat room. Let me know what you want to talk about. Oh, yeah. Other plays in this game. Oh, also Brady dinged up on a hit that Cam Chancellor came in kind of. Was it a dirty hit? Belichick was asked that in his presser, and he was like, well, it's kind of hard to judge intent. But he said he was kind of swiping for the ball, lost his balance, and kind of fell. And it looked like right into Brady's knee. So a hush came over the Foxborough crowd, as well it should. But the more you look at it, the more it was above the knee, and it was on his quad. Brady was limping to his post-game presser, but looked a little better in practice today, and he said there's no way it's keeping him out. So it's a quad injury, not a knee injury, so we can exhale a little bit from that. So looking at the Pats and Niners injury report from today, Wednesday, November 16th. Gronkowski, obviously, with this chest injury, as they're listing it, did not participate. Limited participation, Martellus Bennett, Alan Branch, Julian Edelman, and Chris Hogan. So not participating for the Niners, Torrey Smith. And then they have kind of a litany of guys that were limited in that. Of note, Carlos Hyde, who didn't play in their game last week, he is back. Was full participant in practice today for them. He is nursing a shoulder injury. But, oh, man, can we put this Seahawks game to bed? I mean, Doug Baldwin torched us for 3 touchdowns. So there's a lot for the Pats D to kind of learn from there. I think they came in allowing the 3rd fewest points per game in the league. Seattle was 1 or 2. But after the game, I think they're down to 6. So they're dropping a little bit of that, and that seems like the most important stat on the Pats coaching staff, and as well as it should be, because that ultimately is the one that determines who wins or loses the game. So give up the fewest points, you got a good chance, especially when you got an offense that can produce about 30 a game. So I got to tell you, on that last drive, when Gronk made that over-the-shoulder catch where Brady just dropped it in beautifully, and that was like on the aforementioned Shed, who got the pick of Brady early in the game, and Gronk just did great. It's unbelievable the precise routes this guy runs as a tight end. So he's going against Shed there, who's a cornerback, who has his, must be faster than Gronk, who's a tight end. And Gronk just gets a step on him and then kind of like takes that step and shields his body and shields his man off the thing. And then Tommy just threw it in the breadbasket. You had to love it. And I'm sure me, like all the rest of the Pats fans out there, once they got that, it's like, okay, we're going to tie this up and we're going to win this in OT. So it was kind of tough to see when after that play right there, that made it 1st and goal for the Pats at the 2. And they called a quarterback sneak there. Now, I love TB12. There's nobody that runs the sneak better, but it's usually for like a 1-yard plunge. And they're doing this from like the 2-yard line. And so he gets about 1 yard. So now they're down to the 1-yard line. So now it's 2nd and goal. Now they go to Blunt. He's knocked back at like no gain. Oh, man. And so now 3rd down, they try and sneak it again with Brady. Not much imagination used on this particular series of plays. And, Josh McDaniels is a guy that always gets credit for having a good imagination as an offensive play caller. And he just, I didn't really see it on this one. And that naturally, there was a mess up on the snap on that one, and Brady fumbled. Luckily, he was able to recover. And then there was the 4th down play to Gronk, which in between, I think we had a defensive offsides, which was a half distance to the goal. But then, even when they started Gronk in the backfield, and then they put him in motion, and Chancellor went with him. I thought it would have been interesting if, rather than run the fade pattern to Chancellor in to Gronk with Chancellor covering, why not just whip it out to him in the flat? I know Chancellor's a big boy, but he's not Gronk big, and Gronk would only have to get 1 yard after making the catch. It was kind of interesting, and he was playing off him a little bit. He was giving him like a 4-yard cushion there. So as it was, they went with the fade. Gronk said in his presser that he wasn't even trying to make contact on him. On the fade, he has to come up, kind of put a little move on him as he gets over the toes of the defender, and then kind of break to the corner. So he did indeed initiate the contact, and then kind of Chancellor grabbed him a little bit, but I didn't think it was egregious. There's been more egregious calls this week. Not in this season, not only in Pats games, but in others around the game. And I think the refs overall, the officials are getting a bad rap, so I just don't want to hop on them like most people do. But thanks for tuning in with us here, Pats Wrap 360. I'm all alone tonight. Hit me up on the YouTube chat room if you want to, make me feel a little less lonely. But it was only the Pats' 2nd loss of the season. So there's no other team in the AFC that has, only 1 loss. So you got to like the Pats' chances still in there despite the loss. I believe maybe Oakland is the only other team that has 2 losses. Let me just double check that right now. The Pats still 7-2, very comfortably in the lead in the AFC East, as the Dolphins, with their win, improved to 5-4. Bills are 4-5, and the Jets 3-7. You got the Chiefs with 2 losses. They're 7-2. The Raiders are 7-2. With their win over the Broncos, or the Broncos, I believe they won in New Orleans. Yes, 7. So they're 7-3. So that AFC West is where the power is. You get the Chiefs and the Raiders at 7-2, the same record as the Pats, and the Broncos sitting there at 7-3. The AFC South led by the 6-3 Texans, and the AFC North led by the 5-4 Ravens. So definitely the competition you would think for the Pats and for determining buys at the end of this regular season for the playoffs. You think those people are coming out of the AFC West. But yep. So looking ahead to the Niners, this week's game as the Pats go to Levi Stadium, cool 3,000 miles away to face the 1-8 Niners. Don't let that record fool you, all right? The Niners have been playing a little bit better the past few weeks. They have Colin Kaepernick, the much maligned quarterback who's been in the news a lot for not standing for the national anthem. But a few weeks ago, he was in the news for the fact that he was actually going to play a little bit. So, he's been okay. I mean, he hasn't won a game for him yet, but he did have close to 400 yards passing versus the Saints a few weeks ago, and he looked pretty good at the Cardinals this past week in a game they lost on the final play of the game with a kick, 23-20. Now, keep in mind the Pats, almost lost at Arizona in a very close game. So, I mean, maybe these teams are a little more evenly matched than you think. And Bill's quick to point, too, that where it's a Chip Kelly-led team, there was a Chip Kelly-led team that came into Foxborough Week 13 last season in the 2015 season and handled the Patriots 35-28 in that one. And if you remember that one, as I do, I thought it was a good teaching loss for the Pats when it happened at the time because, I like those teaching losses, especially when they happen to NFC teams, because then Bill has a lot of coaching points, and yet it doesn't hurt us too much standing-wise as far as playoff position goes. But they came back in that game from a 14-point deficit, and it was probably one of the worst games you'll see out of the Pats special teams, a unit that I really have been kind of quick to laud this season as they're really fast, and they have a bunch of guys that I think could contend in the future for Pro Bowl spots as special teamers once Matthew Slater decides to retire, whenever that is. I hope he stays longer than Tom, and he probably will. Well, he's younger, of course. But he actually said in his the midweek presser that it was probably the worst game they played on special teams since he's been here. And that is saying a lot. He's been here the past 8 seasons in Foxborough. Not here in North Hollywood, but with the Pats in Foxborough. So don't take these Niners too lightly. Like I say, they have been playing a little bit better the last couple weeks. And let's not forget, 4 years ago, a Colin Kaepernick-led Niners team came into Foxborough and beat the Pats 41-34. So, don't take them lightly, Pats fans. I made that mistake last week. Like I say, came in with a wounded Seattle team I thought we were going to handle, and they made the Pats taste it. So, hopefully they can get well with a win at the Niners next week. We'll see, because then I think after that we got the Jets coming up, and we got the Rams after that, I believe. So, let me just double check that that's true. Yep, come on, internet. But so I hope there isn't a kryptonite developing for this New England Patriot team, because they've just kind of got dismantled by, well, dismantled might be a harsh word, but they just had a loss hooked on them by Russell Wilson, a guy who can move around in the pocket, buy time, and also sling it down the field. Colin Kaepernick is also a guy that can do that a little bit. So as he showed 4 years ago in Foxborough, where they have a hell of a time containing him. So that'll be interesting. So hopefully they can get back in their winning ways versus the Niners this weekend at Levi Stadium. Following week, they'll be at the Jets and then home for 2 versus the Rams and Ravens. And we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves on that. But, it's definitely a schedule that Well, I don't like to make predictions, but it could very well be like a 13-3-ish season for the Pats, and that's going to be right in the running, I would say, for a bye. And that bye is huge for the Pats. So that's what we're playing for right now, folks. We'll say that. And like I said, the Niners looks like they're going to have Carlos Hyde back. So he's kind of a lot to handle if he's back from that bum shoulder, which it sounds like he is going to be. And Chip Kelly, you never know. When he maybe it's a situation where it just turns on from one of these weeks, and they're just kind of moving like the Chip Kelly, like his first Eagle team that was very good. Or maybe, hey, the NFL has caught up to Chip Kelly, and maybe he's got to go back to college. But he also got Jeremy Curley in the slot, a big position in a Chip Kelly-led offense. So that'll be big. He had 7 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown last week for Arizona. So he's kind of a big target for them, who gets a lot of catches. On the defensive side of the ball, they got Glenn Dorsey back, a guy that was injured earlier this season. He makes some stud on that defensive line in the second tier. You got guys like Gerald Hodges and Navarro Bowman, and then back Jimmy Ward did pretty good versus Larry Fitzgerald, as he's one of their corners last week. But it should be interesting to see for the Pats to see how they do versus the Niners next week. I'm not going to say it be a good litmus test because, yes, they are 1-8. But once again, folks, we are not looking at that record. We're not being fooled by it because they have been playing better lately. And it looks like the Pats are showing a little bit of a Achilles heel for the mobile quarterback. So we'll have to see how they get a thing that Jamie Collins was pretty good at spying those guys. So I'm not saying the trade was a terrible move. I think the verdict is still out on that, and there's a lot behind the scenes we haven't heard from that and probably won't hear until maybe the end of the season when things start to have a tendency to leak out, when you're smack dab in the middle of, like, basketball season. In other Boston sports news, I did want to say congratulations to Rick Porcello for getting his first Cy Young Award today, as he had a stellar season with the Red Sox, going 22-4 with the 3.15 ERA. Oddly enough, he did not get the most first-place votes. That went to Justin Verlander, but he did get 18 second-place votes, which carried him to victory in that. But it was a tight affair, tighter than the National League, where Max Scherzer won in pretty much a landslide. That was kind of shocking. But this is Pats Wrap 360 after all, so we got to be talking Patriots. But I guess the biggest thing to be alarmed about coming out of the game is the fact that, Gronk and Brady were dinged up. But Brady's going to go this weekend. We got to take it easy with Gronk. And, it looks like if he is out, it's not going to be with that punctured lung that Ian Rappaport reported, that it is something to a lesser degree. So we hope that if he is out, it's going to be just for that one game. Because, like you say, you're going to the Jets the following weekend, and you want Gronk back for all division games. So that is true. That is true. So the Pats will be an afternoon game this weekend, 4:25 Eastern Time start versus the Niners in Levi Stadium. I'm sure the Pats, who always travel well, will have a good contingent of people trying to take advantage of the California weather and get out of a little November weather, but it hasn't got too bad back there just yet. But I'm sure there will be a contingent. I know of a contingent coming out with from Taunton. Michael Alley and his boys will be out there cheering on the Pats. So shout out to you boys. Appreciate it. And, so I think I've ran out of things to say. But I appreciate you guys turning in and hanging in with me. So let's put a button on it. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm Mike Conley. This has been another edition of Patriots Wrap 360. Go Pats. Beat those Niners.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.